Okay. Hey, Madison. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for taking this interview.
Of course.
I'll try to make this brief, but I would
Mhm.
appreciate if you would give me honest and thoughtful answers to these questions.
Thank you. I will.
Okay. Let's get started. First, just to brief you,
Mhm.
this topic is covering academic confidence and the
Mhm.
impact it plays potentially towards academic success.
Mhm.
And briefly, I would just like if you could answer how you would personally define academic confidence and
Mhm.
academic success. These things could be like GPA, growth, balancing, or networking.
Mhm. So, when thinking about academic confidence versus academic success, I do think that it's important to distinguish between them because academic confidence is needed in order to achieve academic success. I would start by clarifying that academic confidence can be nourished and grow into academic success. So I would say that can be achieved through.
Before, thanks for your thoughts, but before we get to that point on how they're
Yeah.
correlated, just
Mhm.
briefly, if you could just like define in simple terms what is
Okay.
academic confidence?
Academic confidence is having the. Hmm.
If you're stuck on that, let's move to academic success. What do you think academic success is?
Having excellence
Like
in your work.
a good grade, or
I don't know if it would be just good grades. I think that's like a part of academic success. It's like a result of it.
okay.
So I think academic success is in whatever way you are getting closer to your goal
Okay.
academically.
And do you think that goal is defined by you personally, or do you think that goal is more like objective, like graduating or passing a class?
I think in the public and socially, people can say that it is objective and can look like one thing, but I actually disagree a little bit on that. I think
Okay.
that academic success is personalized to you
Okay.
because there's different ways in which you can achieve that. I don't think it can just be measured by grades.
So for you personally,
Yes.
how would you define academic success?
I would define academic success as the growth and achievement of your personal academic goals.
Okay. And what are some personal goals that you have set for yourself?
Some personal goals. So starting more on the macro level, my macro level would be first achieving and completing my bachelor's degree.
Okay. So graduation, passing
Yes.
classes?
Graduation, maintaining an overall high cumulative GPA is
Okay.
more broad. So kind of those bigger goals that I'm aiming for. I'm also looking towards the future even further than that. It would be gaining experience in my field and looking to begin my master's degree. So further education is another academic success goal I have.
Okay.
And if you're thinking more micro level, it would be, I sort of had the academic confidence to delve deeper into my major by selecting a minor. So that's a part of my academic success is my minor.
Okay. How about for micro? What could it also just be like assignment based or like getting
Mhm.
through the week maybe?
Yeah, I think being able to have good time management skills
Yeah.
in order to delegate tasks, such as utilizing a planner and kind of checking off as the week goes, different assignments, essays, and then also being able to plan for like those bigger tests and.
Nice. Okay. One more point before we move on. If you could do like one or two words in regards to academic confidence, what would you like attribute that to? Like,
Hmm.
and if you're stuck, like what I would think would be like self assurance would be one for me. That would gear towards academic confidence. Do you have anything like that might relate?
Mm, probably grit
Okay.
would be one of them.
Nice.
And resilience.
Resilience. Perfect.
Because those are both things that are like subcategories of confidence in my opinion.
Yeah, so you're very headstrong, I feel like, when it's in regards to confidence.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, moving on. This can be a brief question. Do you think academic confidence looks the same for everybody?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
I definitely think that it varies because it is kind of a broad umbrella term and it can be taken in different routes by different people. And it does look different for people.
Nice. In regards to those like one-word liners, what do you think would be some other ones that might be applied to other people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think.
Like I gave my example of self-assurance, so maybe someone else has something on another spectrum.
Yeah, it could have, I think. Maybe just willingness.
Okay.
Just kind of base level, something like that. Maybe drive.
Drive, okay.
Because you need a drive to have that kind of confidence. I think also being solution focused and goal focused.
Okay.
Because you tend to have confidence whenever you have something in sight. When you say, okay, here's my next goal, I need this to be able to achieve this. So you kind of need to have that stepping stone.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Moving on. How has your definition of success maintained throughout college?
That's a great question. So I do think, thankfully, I've been able to have academic success and how that looks implemented in me from a very early age. So it's been pretty consistent. I think I've learned really great tools even leading up to college, but I think getting to college, it is a different playing field than other academic areas, such as different levels of school. I think college is very different because you're having to create your own schedule, kind of. You don't have many outside pressures. It's more on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a more individual landscape of trying to get to your goal.
But do you think that those macro and micros that you you pointed to earlier, do you think those have been pretty like stabilized?
I think so, but I think I've also gone outside of my comfort zone in ways by first selecting my minor.
I see. So maybe extracurricular have you had more of an impact on your success?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and also, like selecting my internship, having that other experience has also kind of redirected my pathway.
So almost like interdisciplinary or external stuff has been a big factor.
Right, like me choosing different things within my academic pathway has contributed to my academic success and in ways that I didn't think possible, and those definitely shifted. So for me, it would be through my junior and senior year by taking up the teaching assistant position and my internship.
Nice.
So
great answers.
Thanks.
Okay. Moving on. Can you go through a time, whether through a class or a project, that you felt academically successful? And while you're thinking about that, maybe inversely, a time where you felt unsuccessful?
Well, let's start with the unsuccessful one.
Okay.
Because that's the first thing I can think of. There was one challenging class I had, which was, maybe you don't have to say this, but it was a math course. We don't have to say college algebra.
Okay.
So that math course, I was unsuccessful in it in large part. There were some contributing factors. One that I can think of off the top of my head was the learning style was very different than other ways that I've been academically successful, because it was an online platform that I was learning from, which was very different, and it challenged me.
Yeah.
And it was hard to grasp concepts and learn like I was used to. So in that way, it was definitely, there were some more hurdles for me to overcome, and I had to go outside of the box for myself and pick up other ways to basically survive in that kind of classroom to be successful. And then one that I was successful in.
If I could ask one quick question. In regards to that math course, do you think
Yeah.
that there's anything that was preconceived about that in regards to your abilities in that subject that cater towards maybe some troubles?
Yes. So I've always grown up with a bit of a fixed mindset with math, thinking that that was always like my weakest subject and that I wasn't good in it. So that was a bit of a challenge for me. But on the contrary, because this can segue into my success, was my statistics course. I actually got an A in that class.
Okay.
So I kind of challenged my fixed mindset and turned it into a growth mindset, turning away from preconceived notions I had about my abilities and thinking
Mhm.
more of this can be like any other subject. I just need to put more time and effort into it, and I can be
Nice.
successful. And then I ended up having an A.
So, in the position that you are in right now, do you think if you were to retake that course and put yourself in that situation, do you think you would be more successful or less successful?
I think more,
Okay.
but I think I needed that experience, so I wouldn't go back and do it over again because, like I've learned also, actually making mistakes allows you to learn faster, and that's more on your mind. So having that mistake of a course was beneficial to my learning.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, now in regards to the successful, do you want to use your statistics as that?
Yes.
Or is there another example that you want to go
I think statistics because it ties in really well with that
Okay.
other unsuccessful one.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, moving on. What habits or routines help you? What do you think you could add?
My biggest one that I can think of for academic success is using a paper planner.
Okay.
With everything being digital, I think it's helpful for me. I've always loved to-do lists and like writing things down to make sure it's ingrained in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about having a planner and looking through all your syllabi, through all your courses, and keeping up with it, because keeping up with the planner and seeing everything that's on your to-do list helps you manage your time better, because you can look in the future and it's all in front of you. You can look and say, okay, on Friday I need to have X, Y, and Z done in order to get that part done so I can move on to this. So it kind of helps me also have like a hierarchy of what's important,
Mm-hmm.
and like, okay, I need to get these done first before this, so kind of a chronological process. So at first I would say planner.
Okay.
That's one. Planner, and just being consistent. So that's a habit, is checking my planner once a day,
Yeah.
checking Canvas once a day as well, just to be sure that professors didn't send out announcements, other things that can be helpful. That would also be, this is a tip in general I would give, is to, before classes begin, really actually read the syllabus.
Okay.
Because that is essentially your contract to the teacher in this class. It details how the professor will grade, what their thoughts are on late work and assignments, and it also gives you a layout of like all your big projects and exams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really good.
So you had mentioned
Yes.
your paper planner. What
Mhm.
other physical routines do you think you incorporate on a day-to-day basis?
Another routine is,
Maybe in regards to sleep, food.
oh, okay, like besides academic?
Well, yeah, either or, just
Okay.
more physical based.
Yeah. I always prioritize having a good breakfast.
Okay.
Because that I noticed I've had trial and error with that, trying like kind of avoiding that, and then I notice the rest of my day I'm kind of sluggish and I don't get as much done.
Yeah.
So I think being able to prioritize, you can put this in there, it's called professional sustainability.
Okay.
Professional sustainability is daily incremental things that you incorporate in order to keep yourself just flowing in the motions. It's actually something I learned from my internship, because
Okay.
it's from the social work field, and they really prioritize that because of the things that you have to experience and hear. So it's very valuable, but even for other people, not in a helping profession, to have professional sustainability.
Sure. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. What do you believe are common reasons people don't succeed in school? Maybe a most common reason.
Most common reason is getting behind.
Okay.
I would say that's a huge one. So if you miss something and you feel like just in general, people taking mistakes really hard. Like, if they mess up on something, if they don't get a good grade, you can lose the motivation and you can lose the academic confidence.
Sure.
If your academic confidence is low, your drive, motivation, resilience, and grit, all those things are much lower. So if you don't have that, then how are you going to succeed? How are you going to be keeping up with your routines if you think that there's no way you can come back from a mistake?
Sure. That's a great point. Great. All right. Well, that was easy. Moving on to the next one. How much do you think academic confidence, and that could be self-confidence and intelligence or abilities, plays into academic success?
I think it's huge. If you don't have confidence in your own abilities, it's going to make it much harder to learn. And I think when you come around to accepting that mistakes are going to happen, you're not always going to get an A+ on everything. And things are going to be, there's going to be learning curves to, instead of taking those mistakes and turning it into, oh, I'm a failure, I'm this. Instead, having more positive self-talk, having, just planning things out, being more solution-focused.
Mm-hmm.
So solution-focused is huge, because if you're stuck in the dwelling of problems, mistakes, failures, then it's really hard to pick yourself back up and get towards where you need to go.
Nice.
And in that case, I would say it's really helpful to have other people to talk to, mentors, talk with your teachers. I really recommend talking with teachers and teaching assistants when you feel like you need some extra help, because that's what they're there for. And I think people get nervous about communicating with their teachers, but that's actually better for you in the long run. If you've had open communication with the teacher, they're more likely to be open and receptive to helping you, and they'll know you too.
Nice. Okay, great. Moving to the next question. What factors contribute to the development of academic confidence in students?
So, first thing I think of when you say that question is kind of outcomes.
Okay.
So, let's say you have a positive outcome, you receive a good grade back, you receive validation. I think those over time accumulate into your confidence, because you can say, well, I got an A+ on that paper last week. I turned in all the assignments I had last week, and then having that validation of, oh, I did this, is a contributing factor to confidence.
Nice, great answer. All right. Do you believe academic confidence is correlated, or is it a causation towards academic success?
I would say it's correlation,
Okay.
not causation. I think having the view that it's causational is a bit deterministic. So I think it's more of a contributing factor, because you do need more than just confidence, academic confidence, to succeed.
Yeah. But it's a big role.
I do think it's a big role, because I do think that some of the other factors tie in with academic confidence. If you're consistent, if you're doing the things you need to do, you do have confidence. But it's not just confidence.
Here's a question expanding on that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if you were to accumulate academic confidence with abilities and potential schooling intelligence and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that would veer towards causation? If we took more of a holistic approach and not just academic confidence?
I don't want to say that academic confidence is the cause of academic success, because I don't think that's the case. I don't think you can say that.
Okay. But what if you attributed it with other things like abilities and intelligence?
Yeah, you could say, if you're intelligent, you have academic confidence. If you have this ability, you also have academic confidence. So I think it ties in. So that's why I think it's correlational.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
If you could give advice to a struggling student, what would it be? Maybe one quick, short piece of advice.
Yeah, I would say to not get down on yourself. I know that can be a little bit cheesy, but know that there's so many people who are there to support you, and that you're not doing it by yourself. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Just don't, because I promise you, if you go into office hours, kind of brave that hill of reaching out to your teacher or teaching assistant or tutor. Like, there's so many things here at ASU, even if you don't have a good support system at home, like beyond that, I do think that can be helpful for people who are struggling.
Nice. Great answer. Okay, just to conclude, final question. Do you think success in college aids in future success in life after graduation?
Yes, I do, 100%, because I think, when you're in the motions of college, you might think, well, when am I ever going to use this information? When am I going to need to know X, Y, and Z, this formula, whatever? It's not so much about that as I think that it is the skills you pick up in college. You pick up a lot of good skills that you can translate into whatever career path you're having, or even just in life in general. Even if you're not going into a career, you're learning time management, you're learning communication skills, you're learning how to put yourself out there, you're learning how to also get just experience in general. And I think that there's so much that you can gather from college to apply once you graduate, that I do think that it's a great option for a lot of people to stick with it.
Perfect answer. All right, I think that wraps up the questions that I have out listed for us. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your effort towards the questions, and I appreciate it.
And one more thing.
Yeah?
Pray about it.